All right, folks, tonight on the Vince Dow Show, Steve Scalise, this is breaking news, has just dropped out of the race to be Speaker of the House. Neocons desperately pushing for war with Iran. I tried to warn you guys the other night, there is an agenda behind a lot of the way things are being spun in American media. We'll talk about that. And also, Cenk Uygur. Yeah, that guy, I'm reasonable, is running for president. And the funniest catch of it all is that he's literally not even eligible to run for president. That's all tonight on the Vince Dow Show. Stay tuned.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to be in Philadelphia on October.
All right, that's the intro. And we're live tonight from the great state of Florida. Welcome, everyone, to the Vince Dow Show. It is October 12th, the year of our Lord, 2023. Spooky season is upon us, and I am your Galaxy Brain host, Vince Dow. Full disclaimer, we still don't have a voice, okay? My voice still sucks. It was honestly getting better. It was because if you saw Tuesday's stream, it was in pain, okay? It was getting better, and then last night we went to midget wrestling, and I screamed so much, you know, screaming at the midgets in the wrestling ring that it's right back to square one. So still don't really have a voice, but we're gonna do this here tonight. As usual, before we begin tonight's show, if you would like to super chat to support the show, feel free to do so. I will read those periodically throughout the night. And as usual, everyone right now, be sure to leave a hit like on the stream. All right, that said, folks, we open tonight with emergency breaking news. This literally happened right as I was preparing this show itself. Steve Scalise has dropped out of the House Speaker race. Now, I'm not sure if we actually even covered this on the last stream because I don't remember when exactly this happened. So, long story short, Steve Scalise, They did a conference vote within the GOP. So this is a closed door, party only vote to decide who the Republican candidate was going to be for Speaker of the House. Now, to contextualize, I said last week, you know, if you are going to go through with replacing McCarthy, you don't just want a McCarthy clone. And I did warn everyone. I said, you know, Jim Jordan, not honestly my favorite Republican in the entirety of Congress, but one of the better ones, right? He would be an upgrade from McCarthy. But I did warn everyone. I said, you don't want Steve Scalise to be Speaker. I was very against this from the start, and I said this would be a waste of time because that, at best, is basically a lateral move from McCarthy. And you don't want a lateral move. If you're going to put the country through all this stuff, you know, you don't just want another McCarthy as Speaker. You want a significant improvement so that way this entire political battle and all the stuff that happened here is worth it, right? So I will tell you the truth. I was very disappointed. I was very, very disappointed when I saw Steve Scalise come out of the House conference as the presumptive Speaker of the House. But we do have good news here, folks. We do have good news, which is that Steve Scalise has now dropped out. Now, it's unclear at the moment why exactly he has, but if I were to venture to speculate, it's because if you look, I think the final tally of votes for the speakership, or the nominee for speakership, I should say, within the Republican Party was 133 for Scalise, 90 for Jordan. So the party was very split on Jordan. Obviously, Donald Trump endorsed Jim Jordan. I think the majority of the grassroots Republican electorate very much prefers Jim Jordan over Steve Scalise, right? So I think the reason this is happening is that privately, you know, we don't hold the House by a very significant margin here, right? I think what's going on is Steve Scalise and his accomplices and his acolytes here have basically deduced that they don't have the votes, which is, now I would like to know which congressmen that stood firm and said, we're not going to vote for Steve Scalise because, props to them, obviously. But that seems to be what has happened here. And so Steve Scalise, props to him, very humbly, instead of going through the whole song and dance, instead of putting himself up there and we go through this whole process of vote like 12 times to get the candidate, instead Steve Scalise just humbly drops out and calls it a day. Okay, so I think now this is good news, right? Because I think, to me, this very much clears the path for Jim Jordan to be the Speaker of the House. I don't think there's any major opposition left. I know they're talking about this Emmer guy who's trying to run. I think that's fairly irrelevant, right? I think it's pretty clear now. Jim Jordan has a pretty clear path to get to that speakership. Donald Trump has endorsed Jim Jordan, and so any Republican who now goes against Jim Jordan, especially considering Steve Scalise, this kind of established famous guy, is out of the way. If you're against Jim Jordan now, you're just against anything that Republicans or conservatives stand for. You are the bad look now in the party. And so, I think this is very good news because and I'll be honest, right? I don't know fully everything we're going to get out of Jim Jordan, but I do know he has already vowed to stop doing these omnibus packages. He's already vowed to, not fund Ukraine so much, right? So, and by the way, on the front of Steve Scalise, in terms of his promises, he really didn't make any. We really don't know his agenda. And, I don't necessarily have anything personally against Scalise, but when you really break it down, I wouldn't call him a total neocon, right? But he's a fairly average, run-of-the-mill Republican. And when you truly break down Kevin McCarthy, right, that's basically what he was as well. He's no Mitch McConnell, right? He just wasn't in terms of what we needed. Jim Jordan, I think, is the best possible choice right now of the contenders in terms of what we need. And I think this is very good news. And I certainly hope now it becomes easy. All right, let's not have any more drama from here on out because obviously we've already put the country through a lot. This has been a lot of crap, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not against it because if all the crap and all the chaos yields something positive, then I'm here all for it, right? I'm not this kind of effeminate weakling who's going to stand here and say, you're causing chaos, you're sowing division in the party, and that's always unanimously a bad thing. No, it's not always a bad thing. Of course, there are certain reasons why you'd have to do it, but I will also acknowledge, right, you don't want this thing to continuously be dramatic, okay? So let's hope Jim Jordan now just has a clear path and there's no more drama, and hopefully by the time we actually get to voting on this, it's just one vote and that's it. That's what I hope. I mean, if not, we'll have to see, because I could equally see for whatever 10 or so Republicans said no matter what, we won't vote for Steve Scalise, the MAGA Freedom Caucus people, I'm sure you have 10 or so Republicans very easily who also may say we're not going to vote for Jim Jordan no matter what. So, we may have some chaos on our hands, but I hope from here on out, the road is pretty clear for Jim Jordan to be the speaker. I hope. We'll have to see. Because, it'll be interesting. This will be very interesting, right? In the same way that the Freedom Caucus, basically, when they put McCarthy in there, they made these demands in terms of spending and omnibus and all the stuff, how you're going to handle all of that, right? It'd be very interesting. And this is something to consider, and I would hate for this to happen, but I could very much see this happening. There are enough neocons in Congress to do this, right? Well, where they will say something like, okay, Jim Jordan, okay, my guy, we will vote for you, but you have to vow to keep funding Ukraine. What do you do then? Now, this is the way there could be some drama, right? What do you do then? Because then what may happen is because of and keep in mind, our margin in the House is so slim already. What if the neocons now try to stop Jim Jordan from getting in there, and Jim Jordan has to try to make a compromise with the neocons that we don't want, right? So there still is plenty, so as much as I say I think Jim Jordan does have a clear path here, kind of thinking out loud here, there's very much an angle to where I could also see that he doesn't. I don't know the neocons' current thoughts on him. I don't know how the more weakling establishment Republicans in Congress actually view Jim Jordan, but I am telling you, though, that is something to be concerned about, and I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope we can just get clean through and that's it, but it wouldn't count out more drama, would it? Because this whole thing has been very dramatic already. I don't really know who Tom Emmer even is, to tell you the truth. But all right, let's see. Did we get any super chats? I don't believe you did. Okay. But everyone right now, be sure to leave a like on the stream. And let's take a look. Pat Buchanan is based, although sometimes I forget he is still alive, says Chaotic Antifreeze. I don't forget he's still alive, because the day he tragically passes away, okay, will be one of the saddest, like, quote unquote celebrity deaths I will ever have gone through. But yeah, this is true. Pat Buchanan is one of my largest ideological influences in terms of political writers and pundits and thinkers. So, you know, I basically agree with almost everything he's said historically. So, you know, that's kind of where I stand politically. Go Fetterman for prez. Yeah, we should make John Fetterman the Speaker of the House. Okay, imagine that. Imagine John Fetterman, the Speaker of the House who can't speak. What a riot that would be. Okay, with that said, folks, let us move on here to our discussion, obviously, of the ongoing conflict in Israel with Hamas and all that stuff. And, you know, like I said, I'm not really here to report on the day-to-day events of the war, okay? Because I'm an American and I'm not a war expert, so I don't have much to say about that other than, you know, it's tragic. It's tragic how many people are getting killed in this conflict, and, you know, that's the sad reality of war, and it's not a great thing. And, you know, that's about all I'm here to say about that, right? Is that I pray for peace. But I do think, all right, and part of why, folks, I've been a little bit reserved, and I said this the other night, a little bit reserved in the way I talk about this war, is because I think while, again, what's going on is horrible and we all have our thoughts on it, it's very important to understand when you are being manipulated and when you are being psyoped, okay? And as much as a lot of conservatives claim that they're against that, oh, we're the free thinkers, we don't fall for the psyops, we don't fall for the conditioning or brainwashing, I mean, I see it happen all the time. And I think this is a prime example of that. Which is, well, let me be clear what I mean by that, okay? It's not that, oh, you know, you can't feel horrible about what's going on in Israel, or you can't have thoughts on it. That's not what I mean. The psyop I'm explicitly referring to is the fact that the neocons in Washington are pushing very hard. And that's why when you see some of the things you see, I'm not saying it's not true, but you need to verify it. You need to look into it, because this stuff does happen, and there's a lot of emotional manipulation and propaganda on both sides of this conflict, right? The neocons have a very clear agenda to not only get the U.S. involved in this war with Hamas, but to very explicitly get the U.S. into war with Iran. And we played the other night the clip of Lindsey Graham going out there and explicitly saying that. He literally called for the bombing of Iran, okay? Now keep in mind, and this is again what I'm talking about. The conflict currently happening is a war between Israel and Hamas, right? Israel and a significant faction of Palestinian territory. Because of that, the psyop you are being sold, which again doesn't make any sense. This is very similar to, hey, we need to shut down and destroy the global economy for, you know, a sickness that really is fairly comparable to the flu, right? Here we go again with the false equivalency. Hey, let's bombard you with a bunch of emotional propaganda, and while you're sitting there in shock, rightfully, let's kind of, you know, say, oh yeah, this is so horrible. What's happening in Israel is horrible. Look at all these civilians getting killed. It's very tragic. Let's go to war with Iran. And I think it's very important, again, to sit there and say, hold on, wait a minute. What are you talking about, right? Again, you know, it's one thing to say, you know, what's happening is tragic, blah, blah, blah. That's one thing, okay? But I will again reiterate, the goal of neocons, and a lot of neoliberals too, and especially people like Lindsey Graham, who we've been highlighting here because he has been the loudest voice over the past few days for literally a war with Iran. He explicitly called to bomb Iranian oil fields, okay? He goes on to say this. He said this the other day. We are in a religious war, and I unapologetically stand with Israel. Okay? So let's take a look at him saying
do
that.
whatever the hell you have to do to
We're in a religious war here. I am with Israel. Do whatever the hell you have to do to defend yourself. Level the place.
Okay. So, you know, and I'll say this too, okay? Because some people are saying this, and I'm like kind of mixed on it. In terms of him saying level the place, if he's telling Israel to do whatever, like that's warfare, okay? It's a sad reality, but this is how war goes. Now, I don't know if an American politician who has no stake, who at least should have no stake in this conflict, should be saying something like that. But, you know, that to me is actually less significant than him saying, we, not they are in a religious war, we are in a religious war. To which I respond, Lindsey Graham, who is we? Who is we? Because the last I checked, first of all, in terms of geopolitics, this is a war between Israel and Hamas. Israel and Palestine, if you want to see it this way, that way. So who is we? I'm not a citizen of Israel. I'm not a citizen of Palestine. Neither are you. We're Americans. I was told we're not actually combatant in this war. Congress has not declared war. So again, number one, who is we? Secondly, he is right that this is a religious war, but this is a religious war between Jews and Muslims, right? That's kind of the religious aspect to the war. I'm a Christian. Most Americans are Christian. Lindsey Graham himself, I'm pretty sure, proclaims to be a Christian. So again, we need to be very careful in the way we talk about this, right? Because again, yeah, it is one thing to say, you know, just because we don't have a dog in the fight doesn't mean we can't have thoughts on it, right? Obviously, you know, we can comment on that stuff. But we need to be very careful in the way we talk about it. This is not, quote unquote, our war. This is certainly not my war, right? It's not my national or religious war. It has very little to do, right? And, you know, again, to some degree, yes, you know, it's the Holy Land in Christianity too. And so it's there's something to think about on that front, right? But again, the war is between what? Jews and Muslims, Palestinians and Israelis. Lindsey, again, what do you mean we are in this war? But it's pretty clear what he means, again, which is that his explicit goal is to drag the U.S. into war. He's wanted war with Iran long before Israel ever got, you know, attacked by Hamas or whatever, okay? He's wanted it since 2003. It's just now, oh, here's another opportunity to call for it, right? And, you know, I think, and when I call that out, people say, oh, so you're saying Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself? So you're justifying this or defending that? No. Like, it's not that difficult, okay? Again, I think what's going on in Israel is a tragedy. It's a tragedy of human life. It's a very sad situation. And, you know, I pray for peace in the end, you know, and however that has to happen, whatever, right? That's how I feel, okay? I've not condemned. People say I actually have not condemned any of Israel's responses because, you know, like I said, first of all, propaganda is hard to figure out. More importantly, it's warfare. Okay, it's a war. Like, stuff happens. It's a very sad, but I'm not saying that. All I am saying is that it's not my war. It's not America's war. Okay, and all I am saying is that America does not have a place in the war, actually. Okay, we're not fighting the war. And then more importantly, the idea of us going to war with Iran directly because of this indirect thing that started is literally just insane. And I think you can actually hold both opinions, by the way, okay? You can hold both opinions. You can say we shouldn't go to war with Iran and Lindsey Graham is a reckless, foolish idiot, and also say that Hamas are not good guys and are very bad terrorists who should be condemned. If they actually can be separate ideas. They actually can be. And I'm so tired of, every time I call that out, I get like hardcore, the hardcore pro-Israel people saying I'm endorsing Hamas or something, like just ridiculous stuff, right? Just no. I again am saying it's their war. Okay, it's a very sad situation, but at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to have to fight it. What is America's place in this? By the way, does America even have the capacity to join a war like this? Because, we're already running low on munitions from funding Ukraine, by the way. Fun fact. So now we're going to give more to Israel? Or even worse, right? Put troops on the ground there? Or even worse, go to war with Iran? Drag Iran into this conflict? And then to all you neocons who always, fearmonger about how Taiwan is going to get invaded by China. Yeah, well, if our military and our defense budget is stretched thin across the world because we got this in Ukraine and this in Israel and this fighting Iran, I really wonder, guys, if I were the Chinese, right, and I'm like, we are waiting for a perfect time to strike. What do you think the perfect time to strike would be? So, I think you can hold all these opinions. You can support American neutrality and also think that the killing of civilians is bad. Okay, I don't know why that's such a complicated opinion, but it is my opinion, and it is again why, like I said, whenever you see people talking about this war, when you see information, quote unquote information that's shared about this war, I'm not saying don't listen to it. I'm not saying don't read it or whatever. I'm not telling you to not consume information. All I'm telling you to do is, with anything, right? Don't fall victim to emotional manipulation, right? Keep a level, even if what you see shocks you, keep a level head about what's going on. Because understand, the moment you lose your head, the moment you start to think irrationally about this, that's when these neocons, swoop in and start manipulating you to invade Iran or whatever they want to do, right? They did this after 9/11, by the way. They did this after 9/11. And look at WMDs in Iraq, right? That was a bunch of crap. Everyone knows that now. But what did they do? They used the public shock, firstly, of 9/11, and secondly, false information that was bombarded over American media. Oh, sound familiar? And then you were manipulated into going to war with Iraq. Now again, was Saddam Hussein a good guy? And this is why, it should be easy to understand what I'm trying to say here. Was Saddam Hussein a good guy? No, he was not. Was it America's responsibility to overthrow him? No, it also was not. And did Iraq actually, in the end, become more violent and less stable and the whole region become worse when we deposed him? Yes, that is true, right? And you can hold both opinions. Same thing here, right? Same thing here. And I think it's also important to point out that same tactic of manipulation is being done again, okay? The neocons have wanted to invade Iran literally since 2003. In fact, if you go back and look at the history of this, Bush literally wanted to invade Iran back in 2003, but he never got the public support for it because the Iraq war, was not popular with the American public, and so he never got the justification. But keep in mind, they've been trying to do this for 2 decades, okay? It's nothing to do with Israel. It's nothing to do with Hamas. They want war with Iran, and they're trying to find an excuse to get it. So, like I said, just be careful in terms of falling for that emotional manipulation, because there absolutely is a psyop happening right now. There's a reason why, especially right-leaning, but, ran by neocon conservative media is saying what they're saying and sharing the things that they're sharing, right? They have an agenda. There's a reason they're doing it. We've seen the playbook before. And all I'm saying is don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Because what's happening in Israel right now with Hamas does not justify a U.S. war with Iran. There is no angle to which that is true. There's no angle to which that even makes sense. There's no angle to which that is even logically consistent. Because if your argument is that, Iran funds Hamas, which is probably true. Iran funds Hamas so that, and if Hamas attacked Israel, so therefore the U.S. has to go to war with Iran. Okay, well, that by that same logic, Russia should be nuking us right now because we fund Ukraine. See how that works? Okay? So that logic is bogus. That is a bunch of crap. That is not consistent. That is not true. That's not how proxy wars work. Okay? It's just simply ridiculous. Okay? And as bad as what's happening in Israel is right now, I, under no pretense, will allow that situation to emotionally manipulate me into seeing American sons, right, killed in the desert for the agenda of Lindsey Graham, who himself, to my knowledge, has never been in a war, has never even faced struggle in his life, does not even have a wife or family or any actual stake in this country. I wonder why that is, by the way. Does not even have a family in this country that he has stake in. He has loyalty to nothing in this country. He has no actual roots here. He has no actual stake in what happens. And I'm not going to be shamed into like just, going along with this crap because what's happening in Israel right now is very sad and tragic. Okay, and you shouldn't either. That's the central point of the coverage here. And you know, it's true. It's true. Anyways, guys, before we move on here to this Cenk Uygur news, let us get to our super chats. So let's see here. Getting into our super chats. Burgundy Blue for $20 says, "Nice stream, Vince." Also, weird question. What type of conservatives, aside from neocons, do you believe do more harm than good? Either by not really being conservative ideologically or by hurting the movement electorally? I mean, that's a good question, Burgundy Blue. I don't know if beyond the pure neocons, there's a faction of conservatives that is totally and utterly useless and destructive. I mean, there are some groups of libertarians that are just you know what I'm talking about, right? The hey, libertarianism means rainbow flags and smoking weed, right? Like that type of libertarianism. But I don't even know if I would consider them within the conservative camp. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing really super conservative naturally or spiritually or like logically about them, you know? And in regards to the more conservatarian types, right? The kind of, I don't know, Mises Caucus libertarians. I mean, I have my disagreements with them in some places, but I wouldn't go so far as to say they're a net negative to the movement. Like I disavow them or whatever. I don't think that's true at all. I think we agree on enough to be in similar worlds, but that'd probably be my answer, is just the crazy libertarian types who are basically just spiritual liberals who kind of like guns. You know what I'm saying? I think that stuff, it doesn't belong in the conservative movement. And I guess the other side I might say is the kind of Koch brothers style, the hyper corporate interests that just buy out the Republican Party, basically. If you want to call that a faction, you know, just the corporatists. I mean, they're not even as big anymore as they used to be, because I think a lot of them actually kind of left to the liberal side. But if you want to consider the corporatists and their collective interest as another one, I guess you could call it that. But besides that, I mean, it's hard for me to go declare a whole faction of the conservative movement to be a net negative. You know, we can have our disagreements, but I think for the most part, we can work together with most of each other. But of course, when you get to the hardcore libertarian types or pro-corporation types, then I guess then you could say, yeah, there's no middle ground here. There's no common ground to be had here. So, you know, that's probably the way I would feel about it. Burgundy Blue for $20 says, "Hey Vince, could you react to this secular talk video about Jews and Muslims insulting each other over this war? I would recommend after the 10-minute mark and on 2x speed." All right, remind me. I'm gonna get through the regular stream and then I'll do that. Okay, but yeah, thank you for the $20, Burgundy Blue. Real Texan Politics says apparently tomorrow is an international day of jihad, whatever that means. Yeah, that is true. The leader of Hamas did declare that. So I suppose we should talk about that. I forgot to mention that. Okay, so just so everyone is aware, all right. Let me be clear, YouTube. I'm reporting on what's going on in this war, okay? And I'm telling people so that way they are aware and informed and ideally maybe safer because of it, okay? Understand that? The leader of Hamas the other day basically went out and declared that this Friday the 13th is an international day of jihad, and he encouraged basically all Muslims around the world to rise up, blah, 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 all this and that. Okay. So, in all likelihood, nothing's probably going to happen. But I would say this. I would say, especially if you live in a big city, again, for the sake of safety, it's up to you, obviously, but the sake of safety, I would advise that you maybe tomorrow stay away from super crowded public places, stadiums. It's Friday night. I'd probably say nightclubs might be a big one because you know what happened with Pulse and all of that. I'm just saying in case that someone wants to recreate that or whatever. That was a thing that happened a couple years ago. Actually, it was a long time ago now. It was like 8 years ago, huh? But so that, again, I'm trying to be careful for YouTube so the moderator don't misinterpret this, but I'm reporting on what Hamas said in order to, again, allow you to be informed of that. Obviously, I disavow that, but in order for you to be informed of that, so that way, maybe you can make a safer decision in regard to your plans throughout the day and especially the nighttime tomorrow. So that's what I will say, okay, and that's something, I guess everyone should be aware of, right? And if you are out, be careful, be very aware of your surroundings, if you're in a big crowd for whatever reason, try not to be in dead center of it, stuff like that. You guys know, you're smart, right? But if you are going out, I'd keep an extra eye out, right? And obviously it's Friday the 13th, and it's Halloween month, so I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of social stuff going on and whatnot, and but when it comes to urban areas, again, especially like nightclubs in urban areas, I'd be careful, right? Because again, Pulse, that's my warning, okay? That's the VinceDao advisory warning about Friday the 13th. Realistically, is anything gonna happen? Probably not. And then realistically, if the chances of it happening exactly where you are, but still, just keep it in mind, right? Ideally you want to be better safe than sorry. So thank you for pointing that out, real Texan Politics, because I did want to talk about that, but I totally forgot to. Burgundy Blue for $5 says Friday the 13th in October, as if regular jihad wasn't spooky enough. Thank you for the $5, Burgundy Blue. And this is, yeah. they did choose that day, right? They did choose that day. And another thing probably, because I think isn't Friday is the start of the Sabbath, right? In Judaism. Let me say this. I'm Christian, obviously, but if we do have any Jewish viewers, okay, keep an eye out, right? If you synagogue, whatever, okay, it's a human, different faiths, but it's a human thing, okay? Like, just keep an eye out, okay? That's for your safety, obviously. Okay. All right, with that said, folks, let us move on here to the next story here. All right. Cenk Uygur. Talk about Cenk Uygur, folks. Cenk Uygur is running for president. No, that's not a joke. You're like, what? 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 Yes, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Cenk Uygur, the known historic king of being reasonable, has announced that he's going to be primarying Joe Biden. Okay, under the pretense basically that Biden is not progressive enough, and basically Biden is just a bad candidate, and Biden's not electable, and he's basically trying to make this huge point of, look, you know, we need a different candidate for 2024. Okay. Now, there's a couple problems, as some have pointed out, with Cenk Uygur's candidacy. Okay? And the first and foremost problem is that, folks, Cenk Uygur is literally not eligible to run for president. Okay? And that's not a joke, okay? He was not born in this country. And as you know by the Constitution, if you weren't born in this country or your parents were not natural born, whatever, you can't run for president, okay? So he's literally ineligible to run for president. Yet for some reason, he is running for president, okay? And I understand, he's basically running as like a means to try to damage Biden or whatever, or make a point about Biden. But why not at least run a candidate who's eligible to be the president? Like, how old is Anna Kasparian? She's got to be over 35 at this point. Why don't you just have Anna from TYT run? I don't know. But with that said, I would like to tune in here to a little bit of the interview, the announcement interview here with Cenk Uygur, because some of this stuff is hilarious, and it highlights how delusional the guy actually is about what he's doing here. But let's tune in. Let's hear about why Cenk Uygur is running for president, okay?
This big announcement,
wait,
although you've already kind of made it on the set of Breaking Points, but now it's official.
Yeah. No, I had not yet made up my mind, but I have now, and I have filed. I will be running for president of the United States of America. Coming, cenkforamerica.com. And the idea here, guys, is let's change the course. Right now, Joe Biden is down 24 points in the economy, 19 points on jobs when he actually did better on jobs than Trump did. He's down 13 points from where he was in 2020. He is not going to win. I am running. Yes, I am a break glass in case of emergency candidate. It should not have been me. It should have been someone else. But unfortunately, it was not anyone else. And now there's only 4 months left. We must change course. He has at best a 10% chance of winning. Donald Trump is an actual fascist. So
I do like that analysis. He has at best a 10% chance of winning, talking about Joe Biden. Thank you, Cenk. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the optimism about our side. I'm not nearly that optimistic. I think 2024 is going to be a much more difficult election than that. But thank you, Cenk.
I am running as a proxy. I'm running to win, but I'm also running as a proxy for any other candidate. We have got to get Biden out of the race. Thank you for winning in 2020. But if he loses this time around, it's not just his problem, it's all of our problems. I actually think democracy is on the line. And so if it takes me running, then that's what I'm going to do. And we're all going to do it together. And by the way, and I'll say this up front, and then I'll let you ask all your questions, Anna. If I do this alone and it's just my...
Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here, because this is just him saying, you need to donate to me. I'm reasonable. Okay. But, all right, the delusion here, okay? So Cenk Uygur, folks, basically what he's trying to say is that he wants Newsom or Whitmer, or which I literally just almost said Whitmer, and I should have just gone through with it. Whitmer to get into the race, because he's basically saying we need a candidate who's not Joe Biden in 2024, which I do understand that. But Cenk, Gavin Newsom if Gavin Newsom doesn't want to run for president, he's not going to hop into the race because you stand outside the White House yelling at Joe Biden, I'm reasonable, while of course polling at what, 2%, 3%. honestly, it's going to be closer to 1%, right? Cenk Uygur is totally and utterly irrelevant, okay? He's not going to make a dent on anything in the race. And that's actually unfortunate because I do want to see chaos, right? For all means and purposes, I am rooting for Cenk Uygur to make it competitive with Biden in the primary, even get 10% or something like that, right? For all means and purposes, I want to sow division within the Democrat Party. I want, you know, the stability around Biden to kind of fall apart. And if Cenk Uygur helps us do that, then I'm all for that. But just as a matter of reality, Joe Biden's not scared about Cenk Uygur. Okay, Cenk Uygur, no one even knows who Cenk Uygur is, first of all. Outside of the internet. Obviously, you and I know who Cenk Uygur is. But your average 50-year-old Democrat who's like a public school teacher has never heard of Cenk Uygur. Maybe they've heard of Bill Maher if Bill Maher wants to get in the race. Maybe they've heard of, I don't know, freaking Jake Tapper from CNN or something. They don't know who Cenk Uygur is, okay? And even if they did, the guy's not particularly all that likable. I mean, the guy ran for Congress. People forget this. In 2020, he ran for Congress in California. He got 6%, and that was his own district. That was where he lived. Where he lived, he put all his resources into one district. It was an open seat. Okay, because Katie Hill, yeah, Katie Hill, I think, wasn't that the one girl who was having like lesbian weird stuff? Katie Hill, she resigned from that seat, and it was an open seat. Cenk Uygur gets 6%, not even of the total vote, right? So the guy's not an electoral machine. He's not a good candidate. I mean, just look to and listen to him. I understand he has his audience who like how he gets passionate and stuff, but do you really think, okay, do you really, you know, he's not really that charming. He's kind of just like, he's not even a likable guy, right? So the delusion here, again, I'm actually rooting for him to do well because it would help us, but the delusion here, if Gavin Newsom does get in the race, right? If he does get in the race, it will not be because Cenk Uygur was shouting, I'm reasonable, right? No one in the Democrat consultant base or the people around Biden, nobody is even talking about Cenk Uygur, much less scared of Cenk Uygur. Okay, so just delusional, but
happen. CenkForAmerica.com, or in any way, volunteering, whatever you want. Okay, but if I'm not your voice, I have no chance at all. So let's see if we can bring something good into the world and make a giant difference together. And you know me, I always believe that we can make a difference together, and this is the time to do it before the primaries are over.
So I do have a lot of questions.
So we won't watch this whole thing, but I watched about 10 minutes of this, and I actually thought some of his answers to stuff was kind of interestingly delusional. And it's funny how delusional he is, but I'm still cheering him on because please cause chaos. Okay, we need this.
I want you to explain is the logic behind what you're doing.
Good
right?
question.
Because it seems as though you think running is going to spark something in other potential candidates. So explain what the logic is.
Great question. So
yeah, and it makes absolutely no sense. Okay, you know, it'd be one thing if, say, I don't know, who's like a smaller Democrat, like, I can't think of one off the top of my head. Let's just say like Senator. Let's say that Hirono girl, right? The senator of Hawaii, whatever her freaking name is, right? Amy Klobuchar, that's a perfect one. Okay, let's say Amy Klobuchar. Let's say if Amy Klobuchar hopped into the race against Biden, is someone like that, maybe you could see a Gavin Newsom looking and saying, if there are people challenging, maybe I should hop in. But that would be one thing. That's Amy Klobuchar, right? She's an established person. She's a Democrat senator. She's within the party, right? Cenk Uygur is a guy on the internet, okay? The Democrat Party does not take Cenk Uygur seriously. It would literally be like if me hopping in the Republican primary and saying, okay, like I support Trump, but let's pretend I don't. Oh, I want Glenn Youngkin to run for president. And if I hop in, maybe Glenn Youngkin will hop in. No, you're nobody. Glenn Youngkin doesn't care who you are, right? It's the same. He's just delusional, right? This guy has about the name ID of Marianne Williamson, arguably less. Okay, and if Marianne Williamson, who's running right now, isn't doing anything, you really think Cenk Uygur is going to do anything? What a joke.
First of all,
most of his fans aren't old enough to vote.
When it comes to the issue of me being a naturalized citizen, which I know we're going to get to later, if it wasn't for that, there would be no obstacles to begin with. There should be a progressive in this race. There should have been one for a long time. Marianne Williamson has been in there, but unfortunately she hasn't broken through. I have nothing but respect for her courage and her policies, etc. But at this point, we're not at progressives versus establishment. We're at 4.
You're literally not more relevant than Marianne Williamson, okay? Maybe on the internet, but I would argue in terms of name ID, people who know who you are, you're really about the same. I'd argue Marianne probably is more than you, but you're about the same. So here we go again with the delusion.
4 months left, and things must change. Otherwise, we're almost definitely going to lose to Trump.
What do you mean when you say 4 months left? I know what you mean, but explain it to the audience.
So Iowa, South Carolina primaries, caucuses, etc., start in about 4 months. So in fact, the Nevada ballot deadline is on October 16th. So it's in a couple of days. That forces us to go now, right? And so first of all, if Joe Biden drops out, everything is possible. Everything is possible. All the other candidates will come in. Governor Whitmer, Governor Shapiro, you name it. They will all come in, and we'll.
Yeah, I'm sure Joe Biden's going to drop out because of you, Cenk. Okay, you guys got that? Joe Biden's going to drop out because of him.
Have a real primary, which we should have had from day one. By the way, when we don't do primaries, Republicans get their message out in their primaries is constantly talking about Republican X or Republican Y. Democrats have gotten none of their message out. We need a real strong primary. So my job is to be basically Paul Revere. Biden's going to lose, Biden's going to lose, Biden's going to lose. We got to go now. We have to change that dynamic. So I'm going to,
he's Paul
pressure
Revere.
Biden to get out of the race.
Paul Revere,
so
guys.
if he leaves now, he's a hero. He did something
The Republicans are coming.
incredibly magnanimous. He beat Trump last time. He was a good steward of the economy, so he retires a hero. But if he stays in, I'm going to explain to people that he's the villain. And if he loses to Trump, if I'm wrong and he beats Trump, then great. Then my apologies to Joe Biden. But that's not going to happen, and we all know that's not going to happen. So the idea is to create enough pressure on Biden. And here's how you get the pressure. One of the ways you get the pressure is everybody thinks that I have almost no chance of winning, right? Well, let's keep it real. Everybody knows that, right? They're like, oh, your name is funny. You weren't born here. You're a progressive. You're an outsider, et cetera, right?
But I'm reasonable.
I get to 20 or 25. Panic sets in. There's no question panic sets in because there's two things that happen there. One, the other candidates go, well, Biden is enormously weak, right? Number two is Biden begins to realize the handwriting's on the wall. If this Cenk Uygur, who he probably can't pronounce, has gotten to 25, the handwriting's on the wall. He's got to go. And by the way, Anna, the reason why this is realistic is because there are a lot of people in Washington, inside the establishment, that are trying to get Joe Biden to drop out. We need to help them. We need to create that pressure.
Okay, let me jump in. You have publicly Bill Maher, James Carville, behind the scenes, other members of the Democratic Party urging Biden to drop out, saying that this is a massive risk that will likely get Donald Trump reelected again. Why do you think that you would be an effective voice in dissuading Biden from running again?
Yeah.
Again, dude, nobody of importance cares what the Young Turks have to say. Like it's just the truth. It's just the truth, right? I'm not saying they don't have a viewership. They have a very large audience. But the Democrat Party doesn't fear Young Turks, at least not since 2020. With Bernie Sanders, that was kind of the last time, right? So, like, at least if you got a CNN person to run or something, it would be a little different. The Democrat Party does not take Cenk Uygur seriously, okay? The dude tried to primary another Democrat and got 6%. Do you think they care about reasonable?
There's two things about that, Anna.
Mr.
So number
Reasonable.
one,
That's his name. Mr.
Why aren't they in the
Reasonable.
race? So look, you could say, well, what do you mean? Why should Bill Maher go in the race? Of course, James Carville's not going to go in the race. Yeah, but guys, just talking about it isn't getting anything done. So you need to actually have someone in the race that is actively pushing him out and saying, so like these like polite beseeching of Joe Biden isn't working. And yes, we've got to crank up the dial. And so one of the ways you do that is you have a real candidate who actually makes a real run at him. And when you have make a real run at him, that's going to create an enormous amount of pressure rather than just chitter chatter sitting there as time runs out in Washington, D.C. Now, you're getting to an important point here. And I know some people are nervous. Well, I mean, if Joe Biden only has a 10% chance of winning, and Cenk, you criticize him, does that come down to 9% or 8%? What difference does it make? He's going to lose. 10% isn't enough to win. He's massively behind. He's massively behind, okay? So instead, what the point of turning up the pressure is if you lose to Trump, it is going to be on the record. We warned you. I warned you. I came in the race in a crazy attempt to make a difference because we're on a collision course with fascism. And if Joe Biden says, yes, I am that selfish. Yes, I don't care about you guys. I don't care if democracy's on the line.
Democracy's like, he said it. He said it. Everyone take a drink. He said it. He said democracy's on the line. Let's go. Let's go.
Care if I'm 80, I don't care if I'm 180. My legacy and my ego is more important than anything else in the world.
Why is Anna cooking lately?
So I will stay here and try to get a two-term president because two terms is better than one term. And guys, and if you're in the press or you're out there as a voter, you all know that's what he's thinking. You all know that, right? You know that it's all about his ego and it is intensely selfish. And I'm going to say that 2,000 times on every show until he gets it through his thick head. Stop being selfish. Democracy is actually on the line. JenkForAmerica.com.
What a rant. What a rant. And, you know, I do get what he's saying. I get what he's trying to do. The problem is that, again, he's just wasting a bunch of people's time and money because if Joe Biden drops out of the race, it is not going to be because Mr. Reasonable came along and told him that democracy was on the line, okay? Hello, Joe, I'm Mr. Reasonable. Democracy's on the line. So, I really do wish him the best of luck because I hope he does actually compete with Biden, but it's like, we know, he's just delusional. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
In a recent interview with the Sitch and Adams show, you had described your congressional run for California's 25th district as the worst experience
6%.
of your life.
6%, by the way.
In that election, you received 6.6% of the vote.
6.6%.
It was also the worst experience of my life. What makes you think that anything would be different this time around? Given the way the media treated you,
so true,
given
Anna.
the stunts that the Democratic Party pulled against you, in order for your plan here to work, you just said it. If you start seeing support for you,
she's going
20 to 25% of the vote, it seems like you got that support, then maybe there'll be actual pressure for Biden to step down and not seek re-election. But what makes you think you're going to get anywhere near that, considering what you've already experienced with the media's treatment of you?
Yeah, so I'm under no delusion that mainstream media is going to be all of a sudden, oh, Cenk Uygur, we've changed our minds.
No, they're going to be vicious.
Yeah, no, I know how mainstream media works, and I said it today in another interview. They will lie, they will smear me. There's no question. That's what they do to every progressive. And if you're in mainstream media,
all because he's reasonable. Okay, he's reasonable. Someone tweeted at me just a couple minutes ago. They said, I gotta read this. This is so good. His debate strategy is gonna be to Google it. Remember when he was in that one debate with Ben Shapiro? It was a pretty classic internet moment of those days. But he says, Google it. Just Google it.
You're pretending that you're not biased against progressives. That is hilarious, and then you will make that pretense in the middle of an article where you attack me. Go ahead, you know you're going to. There isn't going to be one positive article about it, right? But
I'm not
hey,
delusional.
I'm also trying to get your beloved Whitmers and Newsoms, etc., into the race.
Don't say Newsom.
Okay, I know that you're not in favor of it, but that's a different conversation. So I don't think that the mainstream media is going to be any different. No, there's two things that are different, Anna. One is, I'm not the only one who thinks Joe Biden needs to get out of the race and we need to have a real primary. Tons of people, about 72% of Democratic voters want it. And Democratic Party, what is wrong with you? That you ignore 72% of your voters who scream, give us another candidate. So if you didn't want me in the race, well, then you should have given him another candidate.
You know, this guy is literally Democrat Chris Christie. Do you guys see it? Yeah, him and Chris Christie's politics are not identical, but they have the same personality. They obviously have the same physical shape, but they also just have the same demeanor. You know, they were just very similar. This guy is literally Democrat Chris Christie. I just noticed that.
Okay, and if you didn't give him that, you got me instead. So deal with it. Now, in terms of why it's different in terms of being able to break through. In the congressional run, we couldn't break through. Why not? Because they smeared me. And by the way, if I read the LA Times article and I was a voter in the 25th congressional district and I heard nothing else about me, I would have voted against me. Because the lies and the smears in there were unreal. I mean, they said I was anti-Muslim. I wouldn't vote for a guy who's anti-Muslim. They didn't tell people that I'm actually Muslim, that my background's Muslim, right, etc. So, but this time, it's a little bit different media dynamic. So now we have a great number of online shows. We have more liberal outlets, conservative outlets, independent outlets, like you name it. We've got every kind of outlet there is in online, in radio. I've been on black radio. I'm going to go back onto black radio. I'm going to go back onto every kind of
black radio sounds like a. Anyways,
outlet that will have me on, and my guess is a lot of outlets will have me on. In the old days, mainstream
that
media
is actually true. I would totally have Cenk Uygur on my show. I would totally do that. Imagine if we brought in. Imagine we brought in Cenk Uygur and we pranked him. Forget, Thevincedao Cenk Uygur debate. No, I get in and I just start talking about like him. I'm like, hello, Cenk. Why are you not reasonable? Dude, that would be like a Matan tier. We got to make that happen. Someone's got to make that happen.
It can freeze you out, right? And then you're done.
Adam says, I want him to win the primaries. Actually, no, same. I want Cenk Uygur to win the primary. Cenk Uygur would get destroyed in the general election. Okay, so everyone get on the Cenk train. Okay, we're gonna make him the Democrat nominee because literally any Republican in the field right now would destroy Cenk in a general election. Like, that's just simply true. All right.
They smear you. Oh, this guy's anti-Muslim, and they anti this, anti that, and then you never get your voice out. Well, now look, guys. Here, I'm gonna keep it real. When an online show has me on, the views are going to go up because people are interested in it. And so if maybe the entire internet will say, no, we're not interested in views. No, we're not interested in Cenk. We're not interested in another choice. Biden's got it. Biden's on cruise control here. He's definitely going to win. My guess is a lot of shows, wherever they are on the political spectrum, are going to go.
It's the Cenk train, okay? Cenk train.
Oh, okay, there's a fight, okay? And now there's a real challenge. And look, one of my advantages is I am loud. And so that is sometimes a disadvantage.
And reasonable.
But in this case, someone's got to scream from the rooftops. Biden's going to lose. Biden's going to lose. We've got to get another candidate. But the advantage I have is, yes, I'm loud. I'm a warrior. And I will make this case. Not only the case that Biden's got to go, but our case. So even though this is not progressive versus establishment, and I will take any candidate, myself or others, that is going to beat Trump, yes, but our policies are more popular. And I'm not afraid to say it. And so you almost never hear someone forcefully making the argument. Why haven't they done paid family leave? 84%. Republicans wanted, Democrats wanted paid family leave. Give moms 12 weeks off.
So let's actually take a brief break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about what your platform is going to look like, what type of issues and policies.
Okay. So you guys basically get the point. I just wanted to play a little bit of that because it was, I don't know. Do you guys find it entertaining? I found it entertaining. he is actually a fun guy to listen to. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. It's entertaining to listen to. Now, do I find him likable? No, I find him kind of obnoxious, but it's definitely fun listening to him talk about reasonable. Like it's very iconic. The way he speaks is very memorable. So we truly do wish him all the best. Okay, all aboard the Cenk train. Okay, Cenk, destroy Biden for us. All right, we need Cenk to be the Democrat nominee. Okay, in fact, make Biden drop out and put Cenk up there. This is what needs to happen. All right. No, but in all seriousness, guys, in all seriousness, I can't believe he's doing all of this when he's literally not eligible to run for president. In fact, let me actually pull that up, because today he tried to basically justify why he is eligible to run, and he got fact-checked by Twitter, which is hilarious. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So, of course, Cenk Uygur is not a naturalized U.S. citizen. It's literally illegal for him to become the president. But he goes on to say here, case law is clear. Naturalized citizens can run for president. He quotes this court case here, Schneider. And it says, Schneider is clear that treating natural-born citizens and naturalized citizens is differently is contrary to the Fifth Amendment, forbidding blah, 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 discrimination, all that stuff. And then he got fact-checked. Okay, he got fact-checked by the Twitter community notes here, okay? Schneider v. Rusk has not been upheld or recognized by the Supreme Court or any other authoritative legal body in the context of naturalized citizens running for president. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's literally not eligible to run for president, okay? So I'm going to be honest, that's probably my favorite story in a very long time is Cenk Uygur declaring to run for president when he's literally not even eligible to run for president. Okay, we love to see it. This is amazing. Okay, but seriously, all aboard the Cenk train. Please beat Biden. Please become the face of the Democratic Party. All of us Republicans are quaking in our boots at the thought of Mr. Reasonable leading the Democrats. This is true. Chunky Yo Play for the refrigerator. Thank you for the $2. Real Text in Politics. That would be a good nickname for Trump to give him. This is true. Rowley Gonzalez for 2 says Cenk giving out the free white pills without analysis. I mean, in fairness, Cenk is incredibly delusional and does not understand America on a very basic level. But yes, I do hope he's right about Trump and how Trump is going to destroy Biden. I'm way more pessimistic than that. But hey, maybe Cenk for once will be right about something, okay? The dedication is real. Now that's dedication. Yeah, no, this is true. Cenk Uygur is such a Chad that he says, oh, the Constitution says I can't run for president? Well, I'm Mr. Reasonable. What are they going to do? I'm going to do it anyway. Oh, you mean I'm not qualified? Like, I literally am physically not qualified to be president? Too bad. I do have sunglasses here. All right. That's what he needs to do. That's what I do not have sunglasses in arm's reach. But that's what he needs to do a campaign ad like that. You know what, they call me Mr. Reasonable. That sounds like a pimp. That's like his pimp name is Mr. Reasonable. Okay, anyways. They call me Mr. Reasonable. A lot of people said I can't be president because I wasn't born here. To that I say, freaking thug life. Cenk Uygur thug life. I'm gonna do it anyway. Cenk 2024. Google it. That's the Yes, it's time. It's time. Okay. I'm gonna ironically psyop myself into supporting this candidacy because this is actually so funny. Okay, this is actually so funny. What would happen if people actually voted for someone not eligible? I think the Supreme Court would have to step in and say he can't be the president, right? I'm pretty sure that's what would happen. Yeah, we need a John Fetterman. John Fetterman will be the vice president. John Fetterman will be Cenk Uygur's vice president, okay? They actually they actually look good together. That's a good ticket, all right? Because John Fetterman they basically talk like each other, right? John Fetterman's actually just a more exaggerated Cenk Uygur. Like the way he talks is basically, the The Philadelphia Eagles are better than the Eagles. It's actually the same voice. It's the same voice. John Fetterman probably is about 30 IQ points lower because of the stroke and all that, but it's the same voice. So I want a Mr. Reasonable parody of Mr. Bombastic. This is true. This is true. All right, with that said, before we get on to our super chats, I know Burgundy Blue wanted me to react to this video. So let's take a look at what this is. Burgundy Blue, why do you even watch Kyle Kalinske? Why are you watching his videos? Kyle Kalinske is such an insufferable, arrogant D-bag. This is very true, but okay, this is what he wanted us to watch. Let's take a look here. Like, the dude is like a caricature of the atheist who thinks he's smarter than everyone. I mean, it's so real. But anyways.
About to see here, perhaps they're more than just pro-Palestinian. Perhaps they're also flat out pro-Hamas and pro the terror attack that just unfolded in Israel.
That's true. There is a lot of that sentiment, but here you go.
Listen to what they chant.
Okay. I don't know if we can be playing that on this stream, but I think you get the idea. Okay, let's see.
Generalized sectarian thinking of, hey, they're all guilty. They're all guilty. Well, what about Jewish people who don't live in Israel? What about Jewish people who want to see either a two-state solution or a one-state solution with equal rights? What about Jews who are not on the illegally occupied territory? What about the ones who aren't involved in a settler colonial project and aren't the ultra-Orthodox extremists? What about them? Look, if they were chanting, fuck the illegal settlers, I think you'd have like over 70% agreement in any poll you took of the international community or almost in any country, right? Fuck the illegal settlers. Everybody would have been fine with that. I honestly think you probably could have even gotten away with like fuck the IDF, who are enforcing the apartheid.
I mean, I basically agree with him on that. I agree. It is one thing to disagree with Israel's politics and their historic treating of the Palestinian issue. To tell you the truth, I don't really have much of an opinion on that issue in itself because I think it's a very complicated thing. But you know, I understand the perspective there. I don't think it's, you know, anti-Semitic or genocidal to disagree with the way Israel handled that issue. Like I said, I don't really have an opinion on it because I think it's a very complicated issue that most Americans don't really understand. And so I'm being serious. I don't really have an opinion on it. But I think that's one thing. But yeah, it's a totally different thing to just say you support Hamas. But a lot of the pro-Palestinian rallies you're seeing in the streets, not all of them, again, not all of them. I'm not, you know, in the same way these people paint with a broad brush, I'm not going to do the same in the reverse. Because I think there are pro-Palestinian people out there who don't support Hamas. But, you know, to go out there and, obviously that chant in itself, like, this is just not something you say, right? But also the pretty explicit support of Hamas, I mean, that's a bit much, right? That's far crossing the line of saying, I just disagree with the political aspect of this. And by the way, let me say this too, to all the Westerners who, again, like I said, you can have that nuanced perspective on it, but are basically saying, like, they support Hamas, Hamas is in the right. Well, let me remind everyone, okay, that the leader of Hamas, just this week, tomorrow is calling for an international jihad, not just in Muslim countries or whatever, but against the West, okay? So, the leader of Hamas is calling for terrorist attacks in our countries, right? In the United States, in the West in general, blah, blah, blah. International jihad, the International Day of Jihad, like, you know what that means, right? And so that's something to think about. To the people who, you know, say, oh, Hamas is in the right here, blah, blah, blah. What? So if you take their side, you are also taking the side of whatever country you live in. You're taking the side of terrorist attacks happening against your own people, right? And that's what I would say to some of the people on the right too, who, you know, take, like I said, again, take this idea of disagreeing with Israel's politics to a ridiculous extreme to where they basically just LARP for Hamas and support Hamas. Hamas called for terrorist attacks against the United States, okay? And that's not even like a CIA psyop. No, their leader literally put a video out this week saying, let's do an international day of jihad against the West and including the United States and all that. So it's not exactly, right, America first or nationalistic or patriotic or whatever to sympathize with a group that wants to commit terrorist attacks against you, right? And again, you can have that opinion and also have the opinion that, you know, we shouldn't get dragged into a larger proxy war and all that stuff. And, you know, it certainly shouldn't mean war with Iran. I'm on agreement and all that stuff. But yeah, the people who just straight out defend Hamas, or I think it's a pretty ridiculous opinion. It's also a pretty stupid opinion when you think about it. Because, again, whatever you think of the stuff in Gaza, you know, I understand that perspective. What good for the Palestinian people is going to come out of this? This is a sincere question, right? You know? Because all that has happened here is Hamas basically poked the bear, okay? You know, they pissed off Israel in a way that they haven't done before, right? And I understand that, you know, from their perspective, they say the situation in Gaza is desperate, whatever. It's just going to get worse, right? Because all that happens when they did what they did on Saturday and invaded Israel and took hostages and killed hostages, all this different stuff. Israel's pissed. And now Israel has basically the pretense to go into Gaza and just like destroy everything, right? And inevitably, tragically, it's not a good thing. I'm not saying, you know, and I'm not making a comment on how to respond. But the reality, if you're kind of pro the Palestinian people, is that the Palestinian people are just gonna, a bunch of them, unfortunately and tragically, are gonna get killed in this war, right? And the ones who are not are gonna face undue suffering because their homes are gonna get destroyed, right? They're probably, their food and water, as you know, is getting cut off, right? Their water, their electricity and stuff. And what about Hamas basically poking the bear and then having the bear run at the Palestinian people is good for the Palestinian people? And then on top of that, I think the most cowardly thing about them is their leader, you know, the guy who now has basically incited all this suffering on the Palestinian people, the leader of Hamas, is hiding in Qatar. Okay, so he's not even in Palestine. He's not even there with his men, right? He's a coward who just ran off and now he's letting all his people basically get annihilated. And, you know, so again, I reiterate my stance, right? I don't think the U.S. should be involved. I think that, you know, it's a tragic situation. I pray for peace. It's very bad stuff, right? I don't like to see the bloodshed, obviously, as just a human being. But, you know, the people who take the not liking Israel or its politics stuff all the way to the point of supporting Hamas, I think that perspective is just ridiculous. It is, right? Because even if you do cry propaganda and say some of it's, you know, exaggerated, whatever, atrocity propaganda, okay, still, is it not true that the leader of Hamas called for a jihad against the West, which means terrorist attacks in countries that you live in? Hey, genius. Hey, genius. Is that based? Is that red pilled? Right? Is it you know, is causing a bunch of suffering on the Palestinian people because you wanted to do this invasion that inevitably was bound to fail and basically has already failed? Is that good for the Palestinian? Is that going to help the plight of the Palestinian people? Is it going to help their cause? Absolutely not, right? So I think, you know, I'm not a big fan of Kyle Kalinske, but I think in that video he's pretty spot on. I agree very much with his sentiment. So, you know, Burgundy Blue for 5 says the other side said equally crazy stuff, passed a little bit. Well, look, I'm not. Yeah, there's a lot of sentiment on both sides of this war that is very extreme. It's true, you know. Because there are also, now keep in mind, it's very interesting. Never do you see the combatant saying this, but yeah, there are people on Twitter as well that, you know, I've seen in the other direction basically call for ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people, and that's just insane too, you know. But what can you say? You know, I guess that's what old world warfare was actually like, right? You know, you think about the Crusades or whatever, right? Not the Crusades, but that's a bad example. That's actually a terrible example. Take that back. But you think about historic. I would say actually the historic wars of ancient Israel, right? That's probably how stuff went, you know. But it's not good stuff. I'm not gonna watch the rest of it, Burgundy Blue, because I'm not trying to get freaked on the demonetization and all that. But I think we get the point. Okay, I think we get the point. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is, right? All right, Adam says, Vince, get on the KGB Discord. Adam, I don't really use Discord, okay? I barely use my own Discord. I should get better about that. I really need an assistant to text me and be like, get on your Discord, you stupid idiot. But if I can barely use my own Discord, I'm not using the KGB Discord, okay? So you can add me to the server, but I'm not going to talk in it, okay? I do not care for Discord. I think it's a stupid app, okay? I only have it because the members like it, but I would very much prefer to have a freaking, I don't know, Snapchat group freaking text or iMessage or Instagram, whatever. But, you know, I really don't use Discord or care for Discord, okay? Bunch of nerd. It's a nerd app, okay? That's why I don't know how to use it too, because I try to I'm like, bro, who built this UI? Someone with freaking, you know, a nerd built Discord too, because the UI is so ridiculously broken and complex that it's like there's no way a normal, logical, reasonable thinking person did this. It must have been some nerd who was like, hey, I'm gonna make this app as hard as possible for Vince Dow to use. Hey, you know, this is very true. Chaotic Antifreeze says medieval gunpowder weapons are better than melee weapons. You've said this like 2 streams in a row. What are you trying to get at with this? There's no context. He's come in every single stream. He just says, bro, did you know that medieval gunpowder weapons were better than the melee? Like, what's the reference? What are we talking about? Adam says cope. Oh, really, Adam? I'm coping by saying that I'm not a Discord guy. Really? I want to study then. Let's do a study on how many Discord users have touched grass in the last 90 days. I bet you if you did a demographic study, you'd probably find that. According to Gallup polls, 70% of Discord users have not gone outside in the past 90 days. This is true. This is true. We're talking about Mortal Kombat, you slanty. Oh. That's what what does that have to do with Mortal Kombat? I don't get the reference though to Mortal, what? All right, whatever. I like complex UIs more than oversimplified ones, to be honest. Yeah, but Discord is just stupid. Discord just doesn't make any sense, okay? Discord was hacked in May, so. Adam says, yeah, source Vince. The source is I made it up, okay? I made it up. Deal with it. Deal with it. Anyways, let's see. What time is it right now? It is 9:51. We'll end the stream here at about 10 p.m. So, last call for super chats. Feel free to send them in now. Questions, comments, anything you want read and answered, feel free to do so. But let us take a look here. Not the video game, bud. All right, whatever. You keep saying it then. I don't, whatever. All right. Let's see. We have a huge war going on over Discord here. Wasser Bottle says actual combat. Yes, that's my point. I'm saying what's the context of this conversation? He's come in 2 straight nights and he just very randomly discusses combat. I'm just asking for the context. Okay, I'm like, what's the context here? Okay, that's the question. Did we talk about Scalise dropping out of the speaker race? Yeah, we did. It was the opening story. As an After Effects user, Discord is easy. Okay, listen. My qualm against Discord is not just the way the app is built, okay? It's also the type of people who use the app, okay? Now, again, like I have a members only Discord server because it's sort of an obligation of content creation. But let me just make one point, okay? Let me just make one point. Every time I've ever been in a college class and I see, you know, we all scroll social media, fine. The ones that I see go on Discord, you're like, hey, let me talk to Discord while I'm in class. Hey. Every single one of them. DNGs, dork nerd geeks, okay? And I guarantee they're all liberal, okay? And probably actually further than that, because now that I think of it, a lot of them have pink hair, a lot of them literally cross-dress, okay? And it is a fact of the matter that is the average Discord user. Not saying that's every Discord user, but that's the average Discord user. Same thing with Reddit, okay? So it's like, do I have a Discord server for the channel? Yes. Do I sometimes go on Reddit to like see certain information? I don't have a Reddit account, but I do sometimes Google something and a Reddit answer comes out, look at it, sure. But the connotation with those apps is very repulsive to me. The type of people who spend extensive amount of the day on it is repulsive. And frankly, in real life, not on the community or whatever, but in real life, I've never met a frequent Discord user, I should say, who is not a complete freaking loser and just overall a physically repulsive human being. It's true. I'm just saying, this is just true. You can cope, you can get mad, you can be, no, Vince, Discord is actually good. Okay? And frankly, the type of people who are very active on Discord and they have like, you know, they're very big into, there are all these Discord servers, blah, blah, blah and stuff, okay? Very often, it's a parasocial relationship as a substitute because they have no real social relationships. Deal with it. It's true. It's true. I said what I said. Okay? You can get mad all you want. This is all true. This is simply the truth, okay? Just saying. David Thrower says, I don't worry about Discord. I have better things to do with my time. You're so right. You know? You're so right. Thank you. You see, the chat understands. The chat gets it. You guys get it. Okay? Look at this. We love to see it. You love to see it. Vince trying to go for the kill. It's real. It's true. Freaking Discord people, bro. Not gonna make it. Okay? You're dropped. I see you on Discord. You're dropped from the pledge class. This is so real. This is so real. The tech boy says, I'm gonna clip this. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just saying. Okay. And tech boy, I know you're like 14 or 15 years old, so it's different. You know, if you're young, use Discord, video games, whatever. But you know, over the age of 18, still on that app. I feel like it's similar to being over 40 on Snapchat. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing at that age on Snapchat, right? It's the same kind of thing. Same kind of thing. But, you know, Discord is not based. There is not a single based social media. I mean, that's true. But, you know, I think there's a hierarchy because there's the common social medias. I'd say like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter are like, yeah, just the concept of social media in itself is not a good thing. Now, with that said, it is the modern world, and so I think we should use the mediums that we have. But, you know, Discord is not a common quote-unquote social media. It's only something a certain like demographic of the population has. Same thing with Reddit. And on average, the demographic of the population that uses it consistently, well, just go look for yourself. You know, if I'm sure many of you guys are in college like me. Next time you're in like a giant lecture hall, just kind of scan everyone's computer, look at the kid who's on Discord, then look at him or her and put two and two together and be like, oh, interesting, right? So this is true. Sheeny Beanie for 2 says Discord is for those chronically online. Exactly my point. Discord is for those chronically online. This is so true, right? And think about this for a second too, right? So I'm young, okay? I'm in college and stuff. Me and my friends have a Snapchat group chat. Like that's the main place we like coordinate stuff. And usually the point of a Snapchat group chat is like to plan stuff in person. And so that's what it's for. You know? Hey, yo, what the move TN? Like that's the type of stuff that goes on in that, right? Because usually the people you have on Snapchat are the people you know in real life, right? On the flip side, if your primary communication with your quote-unquote friends, quote-unquote, is on Discord, most likely those are not people you know in real life. Most likely the people you conversate with the most on a regular basis are not IRL friends, in real life friends, right? So this is very true. And then you form those parasocial relationships. All my best friends are on screens over the internet. And, you know, it develops that kind of antisocial behavior that I personally, not the biggest fan of, right? And I, even if they're right wing or whatever, I have a very hard time getting along with those people in real life because it's like operating on two playing fields, okay? And honestly, there have been times in my life where I kind of fell too much into the parasocial online thing, which is why I've like drawn out of it. Right? I made a very specific plan, especially this year in college. I was like, okay, no more parasocial friendships. IRL, right? You're a real person. Like, spend less time on the internet talking to people on the internet. You know what I mean? And not only have I thought it's been good for me, it's also strengthened my feelings on Discord about 20 times. Okay? So this is true. All right, last super chat or member chat here of the night. $1 for 8 months says, member chat for 8 months says, hey Vince, I am about to start preparing my check ride to get my private pilot's license. I eventually want to be a pilot for rich people like the Trump family, Tucker Carlson, Andrew Tate, or someone. Thank you for the member chat, $1 for $1. Well, I wish you the best of luck, all right? If you do get a private jet, all right, you owe me a free ride, all right? I'm going to pull up, even though I can't afford it, I'm going to flex. Hey, look, got a private jet. You know, you need to just find a way to finesse me a ride on the private jet. That would That would be very fun. But anyways, with that said, folks, thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. We're gonna wrap up the stream here. Everyone, be sure to leave a like on the stream right now. And until the next time I see you guys, have a very good night. We may be live tomorrow. I have to see. Because there may be something I have to do, but we'll see. Okay, we may be live tomorrow. It's probably like 50-50 right now. But if not, we'll probably be live again, next week and stuff, obviously, and the video content will come as usual. But all right, guys, thank you to everyone who tuned in. Leave a like before you go. Alpha moves only. God bless. Have a very good night and peace.